Oh my goodness, what have we done? Look who's in the audience.
Well,
We will recognize that Atlas Wolf was here first, and oh my God, we have an extra special guest. We have
well,
Romulan.
well. I'm a little overwhelmed. Like I think I'm a little verklempt. Yeah, like
I'm so
Atlas
glad I
Wolf.
got this cookie and this diet ginger beer.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Bill. Oh Lord Jesus, Bill is in the. Oh Lord.
Well, now we can get the party started. And hey, Louboutin, super fan Louboutin.
Louie! What up, Doe? What up? What's going on? What y'all doing? How y'all doing, Doe? Hey, y'all. What up? Word up, y'all.
So what's going
Word
on?
up.
What's shaking? What's popping? How have you been?
What's cracking lacking? I'm good. You know, everything's good. Everything's listen, as the youngsters say, everything is Gucci. It's
Ooh.
Gucci.
Hey, best friend.
So,
Reggie's in the house, and super fan Cortez is in the house.
oh my goodness. Hey, best friend. Hey, best friend. That's his name gonna be. His name for now is best friend. Hey, best friend. Mm-hmm.
Best friend, how you doing, best friend?
Right, right. Hey, Cortez, what's going on? Hey, listen, I saw your Facebook post about the competition. So, listen, either way, love you, support you, whatever you're going to do. Just,
Right, we
I'm
about
here.
to do it again. We're gonna do it again.
Yeah. So,
We're gonna make it happen.
but yeah, ain't nothing going on. Like, this has been a day. I did go and get my old man shots today.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my 50 and over shots. So, you got to get your your pneumococcus, your meningitis, your
Mm-hmm.
pneumococcal, your pneumonia shot. Then you
Mm-hmm.
also got to get your what's the other one? Your what's it with the shingle shot. And
Yes.
so, I got those three on top of getting the flu shot last week. So, my arms is a little sore. I'm and it's been a couple hours. So it's like this one is giving me a little bit of guff and I feel it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's all right. I got to go back and get
Girl, you
do
were
the
doing
follow
the
up.
most.
Yeah, listen, I was trying to get to and wait. Then they also gave me the colorectal cancer screening thing. You got to go and do that. So it's like, so now it's like, all right, in the morning we're gonna get that in the little package and put that back in the mailbox and get it up out the door because I like let's do all this
Oh,
at the same time. But other than that, everything is good. Can't really complain. And that's just where we are. Like this is what it is. And when you hit that 50 mark, so it's
yes.
50 and fly and check me out by my doctor. So that's all
Right.
it is. So, but that's what's going on for me. What about with you? How's your week been? How's your day going?
The week has been good actually. I feel comfortable in announcing now that I will be leaving Pepco and moving on to
Redacted.
redacted railways.
Come on, redacted railways.
uh
That was always my favorite, redacted railways.
yes, so it was a great opportunity. It's one of those things, those and I'm not stereotyping here, those Indian headhunter companies.
Uh-huh.
And you know, when a new requisition comes out because you get 50 emails that say the exact same thing.
Mm.
They'll say whoever they are, and then the description of the job is literally exactly the same. And those almost never go anywhere because if you said, I'm gonna name some software, Python. If you say Python anywhere, you could have been like, my hobbies are Pythons. You're going to get a call if there's any word in the requisition that says Python.
Python.
So
Mm-hmm.
all they do is collect these resumes and they throw them at the wall hoping something will stick. So I didn't pay it any attention at first, but the job was actually sounded like something I could do and wanted to do. And so
Okay.
I had gone to Redacted's website, but the job wasn't listed.
Hey, Spash.
Yes. Why am I just getting redacted now that I'm high? Well, I don't really know what to tell you. So
listen, you can see clearly now that you got your, you have your edible puff on. We'll just
put a
call it
pin
that.
in that high, because we're gonna come back to that topic. CBD lube. So just put a pin in that, and we're gonna come back to that. All right. So oh, we got to come back to Freaky McNasty too. So put a pin in that too. So the job wasn't listed on their website. So I was like, I don't know what's going on here, whatever. But then this one guy called me from Northern Virginia, and the conversation just led me to believe that he actually knew, he was like, we filled requisitions for them before, whatever. And I was like, sure, go ahead and submit me. I mean, they got my numbers together and everything. And then I didn't hear anything from them for a couple of weeks. So I was like, no harm, no foul. And then he called me back. He was like, they really like you, but they're just wondering, they're trying to see if they can do it without the PMP. And I was like, whatever, because I have no interest in sitting for the PMP, because everybody I know with their PMP that I've worked with is a moron in one way or another. So it don't really mean nothing to me. And so then like last Thursday, like the day after the show, I got a call, and he was like, well, they want to interview you. And I was like, oh, well, this is further than any of these other companies have done. So we had the interview last Thursday. So yeah, so the day after the show, he called me. He was like, are you going to be available for an interview? And I was like, sure, whatever. And he was like, all right, cool. So I did the interview, and 20 minutes later, he called back and said, so if we offered to pay for the PMP, would you take the job? I was like, yeah. All right, well, then you got the job. So now I got the job, and they're going to pay for the PMP. So,
All right.
I'm good with that. And so now I had to, go through the process of letting everybody at Pepco know that I'm resigning.
Mm-hmm.
The reactions range from 100% happiness to shade, like how you get that job, and not like how you get that job, like, hey, how did you get that job? How can you, hook me up or tell me how to get it? It was more like, how did you get that job? So you get the shade. It's the subtle, how did
It's
you
the intonation. Yeah, it's that intonation that makes it several different things.
right,
But how did you get that job?
right. To It's not said, but it's implied. It's like, how dare you leave us? Kind of thing.
Oh.
So we'll deal with that first. The how dare you leave us? And I mean, it wasn't said like that, but like one of the PMs that I work with, he was like, so did you look at any of the positions on Pepco's website? And I was like, yeah, I did, but I don't want to do any of that. I was like, because yes, I'm going to be working for the IT department in Redacted Airlines, but it's in a real estate and construction project management function.
Redacted Railways.
What did I say?
You said airlines, but it's railways.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It's literally the exact same job that I did for Redacted Airlines, now for Redacted Railways. It's literally the same job.
Come on, get there any way you can. Railway, trailway. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And even I did it in an aeroplane. So
right.
And I did it with my mind. So there we go. But I was like, no, I mean, and I'm trying to say, I just don't want to work for this company. It was like, y'all are a mess. It is a mess. It's like working for the federal government. It's a whole ass mess. You got senior leadership talking this bullshit about we are family and all this other stuff. You got people, I wrote it down even before I got the notification that I got the job. I was like, I'm tired of working at places where it feels like I'm the only one working. You know, it feels like, you know, when deadlines are to be met or something needs to be done, I'm like, okay, girl, let's jump on it. That even that bullshit ass data call we had to do, I jumped on it. My other peers, like the shit was due on Friday, and like Friday morning, they're like, hey, did y'all hear about this diversity thing? I was like, yeah, this shit that we supposed to been working on for the past 2 weeks is due today. I'm like, and this is like, oh, and I was like, girl, I got my own shit to do. If you would ask me 2 weeks ago, yeah, maybe. But what I'm not going to do is stop what I'm doing in the middle of my stuff so that you can get this done at the last minute. No, girl, I'm not doing none of that. So we dealt with all of that. Plus, also, that particular guy is nice, but his condescension was a little different. He was the one that kept trying to be like, oh, well, you know, we can get you, you know, maybe we can get you to manage, you know, this project, you know, we can mentor you and train you. And I you know, I was like, I'm going to send you my resume. My resume has dollars on it. And I said to him, I was like, before I came to Pepco, I was managing about $1 billion worth of projects at Dulles for Redacted, and I had gotten promoted to manage all of what we all know as United Airlines. So, because I don't work there no more, so what difference does it make? And it's Amtrak. And I'm telling you now, because girl, I'm not giving you no train passes. I'm not giving you, so don't even fix your lips to ask. So I don't even need to pretend with this redacted shit anymore. I'm gonna be working for Amtrak, and no, the answer is already no. I'm not giving you nothing. But he kept trying to act like I was some fresh out of college person with their bachelor's or master's, and he needed to mentor me. And I kept trying to tell him, I was like, girl, this is just a fill-in job until the next big thing comes along. I don't need you to mentor me because I can do my job. Plus, I know how to do your job. The only thing that you have over me is a background in electrical engineering. But other than that, I can manage all of these projects. So I don't need to be mentored by you. There's nothing that you can. I am 15 years older than you, which doesn't necessarily mean that I know more, but I'm 15 years older than you. I've got 20 years of experience in the game. I'm not some kid who needs to be mentored, and I don't really appreciate you talking to me like I am because you're not hearing me. So the first time I appreciated it that he was trying to mentor, you know, the people that work for him. But once I made it clear to you that, you know, what my background is and my experience, you kept doing it, that says to me that you aren't hearing me. You're either not hearing me or you heard the words that I said, but you don't believe it. Either of which is infuriating. So I was like, I'm just gonna keep it real cute with her. So like when she was like, hey, let's get together for happy hour, I was like, we don't need to. I don't need to. I was like, I can't make it. I said I was gonna make it. Then you know how you do at the last minute. It's like something came up. I can't come. So, but apparently everybody else on the team did too. So that was that guy. Then there were the other people that were like, how did you get that job? Because again, the function is called that I fulfill for Pepco is called project management analyst. It's really administrative assistant, but it's well paid. So I mean, like well paid. Like I was like, this is how much this job pays? Okay, cool. And so when they're like, how did you get this job? The implied thing is like you aren't smart enough or don't have enough experience to get a job as a senior program, a real estate senior program manager for Amtrak, managing all projects on the East Coast. So, like,
listen, there's a lot of that going around lately, that discounting your worth. And if you listen to it, it can really fuck with your psyche. It really can. So know your worth. Fuck the bullshit. Yeah.
That's applicable to other people. I wasn't concerned. There was no way that anything.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying that in general, I'm just in general.
Right. Yeah, and that is a good tip because you know, there's a book. It's not called like Water for Chocolate. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a little black boy. He's actually mixed, and his white mother was telling him, that people are going to see the color of your skin and assume that you can't do anything else. And he says, don't let yourself be a victim of other people's inability to see what you can be. So it's very that. So there was that. And so I just sort of dismissed that because I was like, girl, I don't need to prove anything to you. First of all, I'm good enough at this job that the senior vice president was like, hey, so you think we could if we created a position for him, do you think he would stay? And I just told my boss, I was like, no, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could say. There's no amount of, first of all, you're not going to throw the kind of money at me that I need, because that would just not make financial sense for you to throw that kind of money at me. And then there were those who were like genuinely happy for me. And so that was great. Wow. So good times.
Well, good times with that. But you were trying to come back to, so Miss Up Maximus, you said something about Freaky McNasty. You were coming back to something.
Oh, I just wanted to say we never heard back
about the third go around.
Yes. So that's just a side note. Hey, let us know how that went.
Yeah, let us know what's going on with that. But
yes, we're supposed to be going out to brunch on Sunday, so I'm sure we'll have a full debrief on that.
Well, yes.
And then, so Daddy Rod is actually going to be coming up from Atlanta for Iniquity, and he said to me,
"Yay!" So you had it, bitch. How'd it go, bitch? What happened?
You had the third interview. How did it go? I mean, that's what we're asking. We knew you
bitch,
had
when you starting? I'm just saying, bitch. When you starting? What the fuck is it?
Get it together. It went very well. So that apparently means he didn't.
It went very well. Okay, so we know it went very well, bitch. When you starting? Did they give you your money? That's what we need to know, bitch.
Right. So he said, he also works for Fort Troth. So he said he was going to bring me some samples of the CBD lube. And unbeknownst to me, the slave had already bought some CBD lube, and she's apparently quite festive.
So
it doesn't get you high at all, but it does help relax, and it's so really good.
I've tried it before, and I still have some left over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a fan of it. It's kind of as a lubricant, number one, it's kind of like, it's almost like thick spit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of light.
Girls like that kind of thing.
Child, not this one. No, ma'am. It's kind of like thick spit, but it's also not. It's not as viscous as like an Uber lube or like another silicone type of lube. Like, it's not as viscous.
Okay.
But it's okay. But now the feelings and all the extra stuff, I don't really know about all that extra. I don't know. So, but I like lube. So I see Louboutin is endorsing it. I have to try that. So I have to try it. So
what the slave said was that it's really good for him for the use of the larger toys and stuff for easing that transition at the initial insertion, that brief moment of not even pain but discomfort, and easing that. So he said he liked it.
Okay. All right.
So that's 2 endorsements. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we shall see.
And so this weekend we also had interviews for
yes,
so
we did.
that was 6 hours of my life that I
it was a very long process. But you know what?
It always is. It's never not been long.
It was, but you know what? I absolutely am 100% on board with how it went, the process, and what it meant for the pledges, and who we came down to. So I'm absolutely on board for all of that. Now, yes, I know you had some slight little tweaks that you wanted to make or whatever, but
It is what it is,
and that's
and
a
I'm
preference.
always part of the Democrat. It's always part of the democratic process, and I understand how democracy works. That everybody is not going to get their way all of the time, so it'll work out fine. And listen, it'll either work out or it won't work out, and they'll bounce. So we'll figure that out. So that's all what we'll say on that. So Louboutin says the CBD lube is great for anal, not masturbating. Okay. Very good. So, the more you know, a rainbow.
Right.
Okay.
The more you know.
There you go.
Shooting star.
Right.
Okay. So let's jump right into this. And today is Wednesday, October the 20th. And we are going to talk about what's going on in these BGKH streets out here. So right up in these streets. So listen, we got news the other day, some sad news, and we're gonna start to talk. We're trying to balance this out with sad news and happy news and sad news and happy news. We got some sad news that the 95-year-old actress who made her mark playing an elder in Black Panther died. Dorothy Steele, who lived out a long deferred dream of acting and landing a pivotal role as an elder in the blockbuster Black Panther movie at the age of 88, has died. The 95-year-old actress transitioned and joined the ancestors on Friday morning at her home in Detroit. She went out strong, her publicist says. Now, she lived in Atlanta, was born in Detroit in 1926. And again, it was a lifelong dream for her to act, and she landed her first ever role playing the elder who imparted wisdom to King T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman. But she also had a small role in Jumanji: The Next Level as well. And she said the memories and love on the set is what Steele remembered most. She said Chadwick the King, every day he would make sure I was on the set, and he would come by and make sure he gave me a big old hug and kiss. She said we were one big melting pot of Black people, and we knew we were doing something that had never been done before. And she said she was the honorary grandmother on set. So the acting world and the world at large has lost a beautiful soul. My condolences to the family of Dorothy Steele. And she is, as they said, on with dancing with the ancestors.
Yes, rest in peace.
Yes. Now, some good news.
Yes.
Miss EVE, the pit bull in a skirt, the rapstress, the rapper, she is pregnant, and the internet is overjoyed. First of all, I didn't know Eve was 42. I was like, okay, Eve, like, wait a minute. I felt like she was older.
Well, how old was she when she got started? She must have been
exactly. That's why I was like, I felt like she was older, and I'm like, well, okay. But anyway, she announced on October 15th that she and her husband, Maximilian Cooper, are expecting their first child together. Side note, Maximilian is the billionaire in is he in Britain, Europe, somewhere out of the country. This billionaire, because he was in he has a race car company. He drives them on the side. He's like a bubblegum machine person. He's a whole bunch of things. But keyword is this billionaire that is her husband. They're expecting their first child together. Now he does have 4 other children from a previous relationship.
Well, he ain't got to worry about paying child support.
Right. But this is their first one together. And so she noted that when she left The View that she noted when she left the talk that she was going to leave to focus her efforts on growing their family. And before she exited, she talked about how her past struggle, on the show, about how she had her past struggles in trying to conceive. And soon after she left the show, she revealed she underwent a myomectomy to remove fibroids in the hopes of increasing her chances of getting pregnant. And here we are, her efforts and her patience, paid off. And so this is where we are. So the little bundle of joy is expected to come around in February. And just so you know, Eve and Mr. Cooper have been together since June of 2014. So congratulations, EVE, the pit bull in the skirt, who's going to be the mama pit bull in the skirt. She's going to be slapping hoes down about that baby.
Right. And you know what that means? She has this is being a little shady, but she has what? Secured the bag.
Secured the bag.
She has secured the bag.
She has secured.
It's one thing to be married. It's another thing to be married and with a billionaire's child. So, if the shit don't ever don't work out,
she got 18 years of secured bag.
right?
Maybe even
here. She gets down the wrong pipe, and you like, ooh.
You ain't got to tell me. Listen, I know. And listen, listen. This is even with ginger ale. Sometimes when it's too strong, you'll be like that bite. You'll be like,
right, like, ugh.
Right. Exactly. Next, I kind of want to talk about this, and I know it's going to probably be a debate, and I also want to just make sure that we are aware of this. It was reported that a 20-year-old Brittany Powell was going to be sentenced last week to 4 years in prison after being convicted of first-degree manslaughter, a child that was applied to a miscarriage she experienced last year. Listen, after seeking medical attention at Comanche County Hospital for the pregnancy loss, which happened early last year when she was 17 weeks pregnant.
Pause. Your Brista is trying to be smart. Children, you used to strong things down your throat. She always got something smart to say.
See, so she that's that passive aggressive one. She tried it by making it plural. That's what she like.
Right. She's telling on herself is what she's doing.
She tried it. But she already, bitch, listen, she already know. Bitch, I have tons of things that I can let out. Tons. But you my Bristol girl. You know I love you.
Right. Anyway, please go on with this sad story.
So, but anyway, after this loss happened last year when she was 17 weeks pregnant, she was arrested in March of 2020 and incarcerated with her bond set at $20,000. She was unable to afford bail, and Powell has now spent more than 18 months behind bars for her miscarriage. Calling Powell's prosecution and conviction shameful and dangerous, the National Advocates for Pregnant Women, NAPW, said it's supporting Powell as she explores her legal options. Now, the group noted that her one-day trial last week, a medical examiner's report did not identify Powell's use of controlled substances as the cause of her pregnancy loss. Oklahoma's manslaughter and murder laws also do not apply to miscarriages, but a prosecutor nonetheless sought Powell's conviction. An autopsy report did find that the fetus tested positive for methamphetamines, amphetamines, and other drugs in the liver and brain, while the medical examiner detected a congenital abnormality, placental abruption, and chorioamniotesis,
Yes.
amnionitis. I'm botching that up, but so we're going to say chorioamnionitis. That's where we are, according to ABC affiliate KSW0. Now, Powell is the most recent woman to face prosecution over a pregnancy loss. And as Common Dreams, the website reported in 2019, Chelsea Cheyenne Becker faced first-degree murder charges following the stillbirth of her baby. A judge dismissed the charges earlier this year. Now, also in 2019, Marsha Jones was charged with manslaughter in Alabama for experiencing a miscarriage after being shot, with police blaming Jones for starting a dispute with another man, and prosecutors saying she violated the state's fetal personhood law. Now, for anyone who was wondering what the end game of abortion bans and restriction could possibly be, this is it. This is what was tweeted by a young lady by a person by the name of Arpita Aminagari of the National Institute of Reproductive Health. Reproductive rights and advocates warned Thursday that this manslaughter conviction of a woman, of Powell in Oklahoma, following her pregnancy loss, is just the latest case that sets a dangerous precedent for pregnant people across the country and represents the results of numerous extreme restrictions on reproductive rights, including Texas's 6-week abortion ban. So people, I bring this article up because I want you to understand that it is important that you vote. And we have talked about this on the show several times. It is important that you vote. It is important that you get out there and you stick up for the things that are important to you, make it known, fight for those things, because once again, things are being taken away from us. And especially a woman's right to her body and her reproductivity. Somebody else is trying to monitor it.
Right. So It's easy to say that, in Ms. Pulau's case, that the baby died of she miscarried because of her drug use, but we don't know that. But the medical examiner detected a congenital abnormality called placental absorption and this other illness, and there was no positive finding that her drug use was what caused the miscarriage. And even if it had, as you stated, Oklahoma's laws, manslaughter and murder laws, do not apply to miscarriages at all. So they basically just made some shit up.
And here's the thing:
had a miscarriage, and they made some shit up to charge this woman. And because I don't know if Pulau, she might be Native American, I don't know, but she's definitely poor, or poor enough that she couldn't afford the $20,000 bail. So this goes back to cases like Kareem Browder,
the young man up in New York City that wound up killing himself.
Rikers Island. Yeah, he couldn't afford the bail, so he spent like a year and a half, 2 years in jail. There are tons of people who, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? But if they set your bail so high, you're essentially stuck in jail.
Yes,
so there's no way. And then from jail, you then now have to, it was already going to be a burden on you to prove your innocence, because they say it's the state's burden, but it's really your burden, because there's the weight of the whole justice system that has essentially decided you're guilty. So then you've got to hire a lawyer, because that little public defender is, even if he or she has the best of intentions, is sadly overworked. So then you got to do all of that from behind bars on top of that, So, and then this woman, Marsha Jones, got into a fight with a woman.
Right.
And, sadly lost a baby, and she was arrested and had to go to trial. So now they're saying that, for the duration of your pregnancy, you can't drink, you can't do anything. So, if you, God forbid, are driving and something terrible happens and you get into a car accident, not only are you having to deal with whatever, because if you lose the baby, that means you've been injured.
Right. You've been injured. But let's just also talk about the fact that you've lost a child as a woman, as a parent. You've lost a child.
You've been injured bad enough that the baby inside of you could not survive. Then you have to deal with that. Then while you're in the hospital recuperating or whatever, they arrest you and charge you with murder. These are the things, when they talk about this 6-week law in Texas, you get pregnant.
Most women don't even know they're pregnant.
It could be anywhere between, depending on where you got pregnant in your cycle. If you got pregnant, in the first, so it's obviously that, right? But people's periods are weird or whatever. Even people who are regular within a range. It don't necessarily happen on the same day every month. And so, with work happening and whatever, or in life, it could easily be 6 weeks.
Yes, indeed.
Before you're like, bitch, I missed my period. Let me go get this test. And now you find out you're 8 weeks pregnant. And now there's literally nothing you can do about that under Texas law.
Listen, so I see, I saw, first of all, hey, Eccentric, I didn't see you in there. Glad you made it. I also see Coyote. What's up, Coyote? But to address Bill's point that conviction should be easy to overturn, I hope it's easy to overturn. But
it should be easy in a logical place. But
yeah,
if we were in a logical place, she wouldn't even be.
She wouldn't have been in jail.
She wouldn't have been in jail in the first fucking place, because. I mean, even it would still been fucked up. But if there had at least been, like, at least in Alabama, Marsha Jones was convicted was tried under this fetal personhood law. There are no such laws in Oklahoma. So they literally just dragged the woman off of the street and made some shit up in order to suit their own political agenda. And, I don't have a lot of faith necessarily that and you think, oh, well, this will go to the Supreme Court. It's not like you call the Supreme Court today and be like, hey, I need to get on the docket. And you see them tomorrow. That could be months and years. And so what happens to this woman during that time? Does she stay in jail for that duration? Because believe me, they're going to make it as hard as possible for her to try to live anything resembling a normal life while this works its way through the courts. So this is the kind of things that you should tweet about, that you should talk to your congressman about, that you should be talking to the NAACP about. These are the things that you should be talking to your local politicians about.
Yes. And make sure you vote, because in your local elections, these are some of the people that these things are on their agenda. Please vote. Please be knowledgeable about the things that are important to you and what people stand for.
And our brother Romulan is a lawyer, so he can correct me. But there is precedence to be set, right? So let's say this conviction. So now once it happens in one place, right, then people feel emboldened to do it in other places. Once it becomes state law in someplace else. Now, I don't know if the precedent in one state can be used to cite in another, but it does happen at the federal level.
So but you can refer to them in establishing a precedent on the state level, because it'll say, as seen with this case set in this particular state. Like once a precedent is set, it can be used somewhere else to help set another precedent. That's my general understanding of it.
Yeah. Romulan says there are national bail funds that should be made aware of this. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that we have to have these national bail funds are a result of situations like this. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep the eye on the ball for this, and, use whatever tiny platform I have to get this out there, because this is ridiculous. This woman clearly has an addiction to something, or more than one something, and what she needs is help.
That is very well.
She needs help.
Very possibly the case.
And it's, the help that's always offered, this is why it's even something small, right? And I know I'm going on a rant, but you know how when people call, there's this new thing, white people do it. They call something crack. So they'll say crack chicken, or, this dessert is like crack. I personally find that offensive, because, now everyone wants to be so gentle with drug addicts, because white suburban teens are having meth addictions. But when it was poor white trash, I mean, that's even a bad thing. When it was poor white people and black and brown people that had addictions to crack cocaine or methamphetamine or heroin or whatever, it was just throw the book at these druggies.
Yep.
And so it's just all part of the same thing to me. So
we're going to definitely keep our eye out on this, and any updates that we hear, we'll definitely keep you posted, because I think this is just an absolute, just friggin' awful.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of bullshit, I wanted to bring up a story that I just was really made aware of this week. Well, one of our he's one of our pledges now. Is a student at Howard University, and we talked about this when we went out last week, and I read about it this week. They're doing a sit-in at Howard University?
I did not. For what?
Girl, first of all, I did not know it costs $50,000 a year to go to Howard University. I'm fucking gagged that it costs $50,000 to go to Howard University.
That includes your tuition fees, room, board, books, travel expenses, and personal expenses. That's your cost.
Right.
That's the cost of attendance.
But the problem is that Howard University is running a fucking slum. There's pictures, with people got, they pull the air filters from the AC units, and the AC unit has a date on it that's like 5 years ago and is covered with mold. They'll show pipes with water. Like when I say flooded, I don't mean like, oh, the carpet is wet. I mean like a foot or more of water is running through people's apartments. People got mushrooms literally growing on the ceiling, and so a group of Howard University students went and sat in at one of the buildings, and they were initially just going to have a protest, right? So that was all it was supposed to be, is just like a cute little protest. And they invited faculty and administration to come and participate in this protest so that the grievances could be aired, and that a plan for ameliorating these circumstances could happen. Well, the faculty and the staff didn't show up. Instead, they sent the police to arrest those students. So they've not addressed any of the issues. So you know how it is at a school. They want you to pay your $50,000, but I'm paying $50,000 to live in this place that's, they have stories of people coughing up blood and having all kinds of issues. So this is another thing that's important, because, the girls love to throw Howard University out there like it's the Mecca. And I'm like, girl, I don't know what Mecca y'all talking about, because FAMU was bad, but, girl, it was never that bad. We lived in the projects. We called it the projects, but, at least the girls never flooded.
Yeah, I don't know. And some of the one of the issues that I've always had with Howard is that they have these funds, but they are never touched. So like their endowment funds are huge,
right?
But they never touch them. And it annoys the hell out of me, because you can easily remedy some of these issues. And I understand for purposes of running a business, you don't want to necessarily use those funds. But the problem is, if you cannot make any more money because the participants or the students are not coming in because of these poor conditions, it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You gotta spend money to make money. Like, you gotta make that happen. So listen,
Howard should. Bill says, Romulan says Howard should be ashamed. They should be more than ashamed. This is a class action lawsuit, as far as I'm concerned.
And that's the problem. The right parent hasn't really gotten on top of this, and they will listen. You write their check. Can you imagine you writing a check off of $50,000 every year, and your child comes home sick from something that? Let me tell you something.
I can't even fathom it. Because I'll tell you how the girls used to carry on at FAMU. Because what would happen is the school. So here's what would happen at FAMU. I don't know if they still call it, but they used to call it the net check. And this is how FAMU made their money. So I get a scholarship. And this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, when tuition was much cheaper than it was now. But let's say my tuition or my scholarship was for $10,000 for the semester, but my tuition was only $2,500. Now, they don't send me the check because they know I'm an 18-year-old freshman. And if you send me a check for $10,000, I'm about to party and bullshit and might not pay my tuition. So they make a check out to Florida A&M University for the bills of my legal name. You're supposed to get a net check. So if my tuition is $2,500, they're supposed to give me a check for $7,500. FAMU would hold on to that check until the very last minute. Like, they will be sending out those checks after the semester was over. Now, you are depending on that check to live. This is, your parents are like, girl, you did so good. You got this scholarship. You did what you were supposed to do, and you're supposed to get this check. So no, I don't need to send you any money, because you're supposed to be getting a check from the university for $7,500. And yes, you don't get that check on day one, but just 30 days into the semester, child, they will be having the girls put out of the dorm, and the students will have to, it'd be like literally like the projects. Your shit will be sitting out. You come back from class, your shit is sitting out on the grass, and you'd have to go and be like, girl, y'all owe me money. How are you going to put me out when y'all owe me money? And so they will make that money because that $7,500 sits in some sort of an account that's earning interest. And so they pay it at the latest possible moment. So that's, I'm sure Howard is playing that same game because, you know, the girls get a scholarship and they're not doing that. Yeah, Howard needs to do way better. And what would happen is nothing would happen until homecoming. Because homecoming is when the parents come back. And so when the parents, because, you know, they can make a 19-year-old stand in line, but Charles Swilling was not going to stay. I didn't have that problem because, you know, I had a full scholarship, so I was fine. Well, at least I was until I moved off campus. But, you know, when Mary Alice came down,
you ain't want no part of
it. And you was like, Mom, you got to stand in this line. She was like, I'm not standing in this fucking line.
Baby.
I am only here for 2 days, and there ain't no AC in this bitch neither. I am not standing in this goddamn line. So she would go and she'd be like, this is what's happening. You're either going to fix this or I'm taking my son home. And when I take my son home, on the way out the door, I'm writing letters to the governor. I'm writing letters to the mayor. I'm writing letters to the board of trustees. I'm writing letters to the senators, to the congressmen, and whatever. And then you would be fixed. The problem is that if your parents didn't come down for homecoming, you didn't, you'd have to stand in line or whatever. So again, yeah, you're right. The right parent hasn't gotten on board with this. She's like, bitch, I wrote a check for $50,000 and you were living in a dorm with nothing growing out of the ceiling? Hell no. The problem is that the parents that can afford it, their kids don't even live on campus, so they ain't even worried about none of this.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's the interest part, but then also, let me be clear: the kids do play games. So that net check. So let me tell you about financial aid and how that works. So you have this $7,500 refund check that you're supposed to get because you're registered for all these classes full time. Well, baby, during that ad drop period, you drop those classes. You go down to 3 credits. Your only charge is for those 3 credits. That's it. So that refund that you should have got, or that refund that you got, you actually weren't even eligible for it. And you need to give it back because then the school needs to then send that back. So it's like they hold, because again, kids will play that game. They will play that game of registering full time, having, you know, and then deciding, okay, but if I drop my class, I can get this amount of money of a refund. If I can get that amount of money. They will play that game. So I get it that's how they play it. The problem is there needs to be up there that they need to think about that as well, because I've seen kids do that. And I have been the person that had to literally go through on the day after that last day for ad drop period, or the day before the last drop of the ad drop period, and look and see who is not registered in all the classes they're supposed to be registered in. They already took their refund, and it's like, oh, well, okay, so you were supposed to be registered for at least 6 credits. You're registered at 3. So guess what? You now owe us money because you took this refund out of here. So you owe us money. And not only that, we're canceling out all of your other, like, you're not eligible for anything else. We're canceling this stuff out. So now you have a bill. I had to have that conversation several times with people that I sat next to in class. And I was just like, but you're not registered at least for half time. You need to be registered for 6 credits.
Right. Come on. Class. The girls was trying to pull a stunt queen move.
Baby.
The kids pull stunt queen, but at least at FAMU, it was more likely that the school was fucking around with your net check because, you know, especially for out-of-state students, because in-state students, tuition. So like, again, going back to that scenario, if my tuition was for a semester, and this is talking about a full 15-hour load for a semester, was $2,500 as an out-of-state student from DC. If you came to FAMU from Miami, yours might have been $500.
Right.
So, you know, it was entirely different. So a lot of out-of-state students came to FAMU with scholarships, and, you know, it was explained to us, it was like, great, whatever the difference is between your scholarship and your tuition, we're supposed to refund you. They never put into place a policy that said, even if it is, so, you know, semester starts on September the 1st, ad drop ends on September the 30th or whatever. So but all checks will be distributed by October the 2nd. They didn't do that. So they were just fucking around, and people was getting checks. People were getting checks in January for the previous semester. Meanwhile, bitch, you've been put out of where the fuck you live, because that literally almost happened to me. I almost got put out. But anyway. So
listen, I trust me, I get it. I know exactly what it is, because bitch, I've been there. And then so I'm laughing because Bill was like, if I pulled that, my mom would kill me. Baby, my first semester, I had 18 credits. When I dropped that thing down to 15, my mom was like, what the hell? And I was like, whoa, slow your roll, girl. I am still eligible for all my financial aid. She was like, what? I was like, girl,
calm down.
We're not doing this. So, but yes,
that ass, wasn't she?
Baby, mama, listen, you talking about, listen, Mary Alice was not trying to play. And after that first year, she was like, listen, you have this entire year, you've had 2 semesters get together. All I'm supposed to do is make sure you have my tax returns, you fill out all of your paperwork, you get all of your aid, tell me what the final bill is, and I'll pay it. If there's something that's missing, you fucked up. You need to figure out how to fix it. But baby, that's all I can do for you. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That's all I can do for you. And I was like, well, okay, girl. I mean, damn, like what? But okay,
well, you're supposed to be grown. I'm sure you said, but I'm grown. Well, bitch, you grown. Well, then handle it then.
Listen, it worked, and I was good with it. I was like, all right, but listen, because I knew that if my black ass, if I did not do what I was supposed to do, my ass would not be in my dorm. I'd be back at home in Philadelphia. If I was back at home in Philadelphia, I already knew what my options were. She told me right before you graduate, you either going into service, you getting a job, or you going to college. Those are your 3 options. That's what you're going. Those are 3 options you got going on.
Ain't no sitting around in mama house no more.
That wasn't gonna happen.
That don't happen. Grown ass people, male, female, whatever, don't get to live in the house for free.
And listen, even if I was grown and still living in her house, guess what? I still had to be in by a certain time, wash dishes, clean the house, do whatever. But I was out. I just listen. So whatever. But anyway.
The summer after between my freshman and sophomore year, I came home and I stayed out till like 5 o'clock in the morning one time. But my mother was like, "What you think you're doing?" And I was like, "Are we?" Girl, I'm glad. Whew. I was like, "What day is it? July 1st? When am I driving?" I was like, "You know what, bitch? I already signed the lease. I can leave right now. I ain't got to put up with this shit." I didn't say. Girl. I ain't say none of that.
Right. It was running through your mind.
In my mind.
Baby.
But yeah. Anyway, so where were we? In some sad news, Colin Powell, who was the first Black U.S. Secretary of State, dies of COVID complications amid cancer battle. So he was fully vaccinated. He was 84 years old, but he had multiple myeloma, a cancer of plasma cells that suppresses the body's immune response, as well as Parkinson's disease, according to his longtime chief of staff. So even if he was fully vaccinated against COVID, those who are immunocompromised are at a greater risk from a disease. So Powell was a distinguished and trailblazing professional soldier whose career took him from combat duty in Vietnam to becoming the first Black national security advisor during the end of Ronald Reagan's presidency and the youngest and first African-American chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President George H.W. Bush. Blah, 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 blah. His reputation would be forever stained when, as George W. Bush's first Secretary of State, he pushed faulty intelligence before the United Nations to advocate for the Iraq War, which he would later call a blot on his record. So later in his public life, Powell grew disillusioned with the Republican Party's rightward lurch and used his political capital to help elect Democrats to the White House, most notably Barack Obama, the first Black president, whom Powell endorsed in the final weeks of the 2008 campaign.
Yeah, so that was a really sad and weird day because I woke up feeling kind of like something's off today.
Yeah.
And then, as I'm checking my news feeds and it's like, oh, Colin Powell died there. I was like, what? And then I felt this sadness because he represented so much more. He just represented so much as far as what he was able to accomplish. And besides Barack Obama, like he just represented a lot.
Right. It was so funny to me. People were like, you're only endorsing them because you're Black. And I was like, girl, you only endorse people because they're white. Let's just be very clear. Let us be crystal clear. Most of these politicians out here, when you see that a Black politician is there, you won't even give them the opportunity to compete for your vote. Like there were a lot of people who, in the same breath that they said Colin Powell only endorsed Barack Obama because he was black, the moment they saw that Barack Obama was black, didn't even consider him for the presidency. So it was the cognitive dissonance for me.
Well, but we see how that worked out.
It worked out very well for Barack Obama.
Yay, Barack.
He wasn't the best president. I mean, I think he was probably one of the best presidents, but that's probably damning with faint praise. But there's also a lot of decisions that you have to make as president that aren't going to make you popular with everybody. And there's no way that everybody's going to be happy. He probably could have done more visible stuff for the black community, but I feel like,
But I feel like his bipartisanship is what is definitely his legacy, that one of his legacies that he left as far as his presidency is concerned. He was probably one of the most bipartisan presidents that I can remember.
He attempted to be, but there were a lot of people who fought him at every turn. So the one big thing that he got done was the Affordable Care Act, but there was so much more that he wanted to get done. But Absolutely. There were people who, the day that he was being inaugurated, Mitch McConnell and others were meeting in the halls of the Senate, devising a plan whereby they would fight everything that he did. So they had already decided that they were going to block his agenda before he even had presented even a single piece of legislation.
Yep. But these are the facts. So, but anyway.
We now know who the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. And so I just have a very small rant.
Okay.
I'm happy for these people, but I've always had a problem.
You want to name them first?
Yes. So you can name them. And
so there are 4 different categories. The first category is a performing category, and Tina Turner, Carole King, the Go-Go's, Jay-Z, Foo Fighters, and Todd Rundgren are in that category and are going to be our inductees. There's also the Early Influence Award, and that goes to Kraftwerk, the band. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that's Trans Euro Express. I'm dating myself, I know.
Trans Euro
Express. Right. Charlie Patton and Gil Scott-Heron, they're getting the Early Influence Award. The Musical Excellence Award, which is the third category, is going to be given to LL Cool J, Billy Preston, and Randy Rhoads. The last award and category, if you will, is the Ahmet Ertegun Award, and that's going to be given to Clarence Avant. Now, just so you know, to be eligible, artists are required to have released their first recording 25 years prior to induction. The ballots were sent out to an international voting body of more than 1,200 artists, including current living inductees, historians, and members of the music industries. Factors such as the artist's musical influence on other artists, length and depth of career, and the body of work, innovation, and superiority in style and technique are taken into consideration. So I got this question because somebody was asking me why wasn't some certain performers or musicians on here, and I was like, well, they're not there yet. Now, this particular question was about Beyonce, and I was like, well,
Beyonce, I don't think she's been in the game for.
She doesn't have 25 years in the game, not as a solo artist. Even if you talk about with Destiny's Child, it's still not 25 years, and that's where we are. But that was for that one particular person. But anyway, the 36th annual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony will take place on Saturday, October 30th, Eastern Time at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. They're going to have a radio simulcast on Sirius XM. They also are going to have the induction ceremony that's going to air at a later date on HBO and stream on HBO Max. If you want to get tickets and go to on sale, they go on sale they went on sale in July. Select Rock Hall donors and members get exclusive induction ticket opportunities. You can check all that out on their website at rockhall.com to get more information. So, but all that being said, you were going to go into a rant. So I wanted to put that out there first.
My rant is that, yes, we, meaning most of us on this call, recognize that every form of music in this country has its basis in Black culture, including rock and roll. But where we are with rock and roll now is it's mostly recognized as a white art form. And so therefore, these awards feel like someone like LL Cool J or Jay-Z, Tina Turner less so, because Tina Turner is more of a universal artist anyway, but particularly LL Cool J and Jay-Z. You and I are old enough to remember when, I mean, you couldn't even play black artists on MTV, let alone get to a point where, you know, an LL Cool J or Jay-Z would be inducted into a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So now it's like, oh, well, these people are qualified and they're legends because white people say they're legends. So that's my rant. And I'm not saying that Jay-Z doesn't deserve the honor, but there are a lot of other people who've been in the game a long time. So
let's talk about Rakim.
We'll Eric B and Rakim. You know, let's talk about
let's talk about Nas.
People like Luther Vandross. Let's talk about, I'm assuming Patti LaBelle is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I don't know. She might not be.
Patti LaBelle is not in the Rock and Roll
and
Hall
that's
of Fame.
You know, if it's recognizing musical excellence, then the fact that Patti LaBelle is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is criminal.
I think LaBelle is, but I don't think Patti LaBelle is.
So that's where my rant is.
Okay, and just as a point out, because Bill asked a question about that, Tina is already in the Rock and Roll. Ike and Tina Turner are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's being put in as a solo artist this time, right. So she's in twice.
Right, and so that's my thing is that, you know, oh, now white people have recognized, you know, Jay-Z's greatness or LL Cool J's greatness. So now they qualify for musical excellence. So let's ask Alexa.
I was typing that myself.
Is Patti LaBelle 77 years old? Very good. Alexa, is Patti LaBelle in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No, Patti LaBelle isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or the Country Music Hall of Fame.
No, well, Lisa, you know, she could be wrong.
Yeah, but she's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And to me, that's criminal. That if you know, we're recognizing musical excellence or early influence, that, you know, she's not in there. Bill just Romulus said Shaka Khan isn't either. So again, you know, if we are recognizing these as excellence, then, you know, this is just another reason why there's things like the BET Awards and, you know, the NAACP Image Awards. I would love to see a Black Music Hall of Fame in somewhere like Detroit. And, you know, I could be wrong. I mean, it could already be such a thing that I just don't know about it. But, you know, that was just my rant, is that, oh, okay, well, these people are qualified to be known because white people say they are.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you know, for a person who wasn't really feeling it today, I'm in a much better mood now. You know what it is? It's those fucking toffee cookies. They got me together.
Well, so here's the thing with Shaka Khan, though. She was nominated to go into the Hard Rock, but she just didn't make the vote. Just like Mary J. Blige was also nominated, but she didn't make the cut yet. But again, Janet just got in 2019, and, you know, that was for like 97 other reasons. But she also didn't get it. She was nominated several times, but she just got it in 2019. So
let me see what these criteria are again.
It's a whole list of them, but those are the top ones.
An artist's musical influence on other artists, length and depth of career and the body of work, innovation and superiority in style and techniques. I mean, I know that, you know, not everybody can get in. And I mean, it's the Hall of Fame because everybody who was just good at what they do don't necessarily get in. But I feel like there are more Black. I first of all should think it just should be called the Music Hall of Fame, not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because all of these people are not rock and roll artists.
Right.
And by putting them into that category, it is essentially saying that your music is good enough. It essentially is saying your music is good enough for white people to listen to and to think that you're a legend. But when LL Cool J first came out and Jay-Z first came out, they were thugs. they would, well, particularly Jay-Z, he was a drug dealer.
Well,
You know,
I mean, but he was.
I mean, he was. I mean, I'm not saying Spock a lie. I mean, it's the truth, but I'm saying musical genius is musical genius. And, you know, does that grow over time? But again, it's just, you know, who gets to decide what is good music? And it's like the same thing, it's the same argument that we have with the Oscars and with the Emmys, you know, and the Grammys. It's like, you know, if you ain't already in the group. So now that they're in the group, LL Cool J and Jay-Z get to decide who gets to be in the next group. You know what I'm saying?
I don't necessarily know if I would say musical genius for Jay-Z, but I definitely see the innovator.
I'm not really a big Jay-Z fan, so I'm going to remain tactfully silent on either of those categories. So it's not about the two of them and whether I agree with their artistry or not. It's just that who gets to decide that they're good artists and that they're legends.
No, I get it. I'm just talking, when you said that musical genius piece, I was like, okay, but you know. Anyway, on to the next story.
So this was funny to me.
Yeah, I kind of. I feel like it's
but I feel bad a little.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like this almost kind of stunt queeny, like it's kind of borderline stunt queenish.
A little bit. Anyway,
you know what I mean? Like,
tell the people.
Okay, so listen, rugby pro Kurt Capwell was tricked into making gay porn film when he was young, naive, and broke. Right. So an X-rated video of Capewell, who plays for the Penrith Panthers in Australia's National Rugby League, recently resurfaced on social media, prompting the rugby star to address what happened. The 27-year-old told the Daily Telegraph in 2013, when he was young and naive, he agreed to be in a photo shoot for a sportswear and underwear brand. He said the photo shoot started clothed, but he was soon photographed nude and eventually convinced to have sex with another man on camera.
That is where he had me because just like, no, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Okay. Yeah. Cause this is where it felt very stuck. It felt like, I was just like,
yeah, just a little bit. You're right.
I was in the, okay.
Right.
So,
just a little bit. So, all right.
So he said, Capewell said the organizer used inducements and extra money for being involved in the adult film. He said, I take full responsibility for what happened. He said, my message to young people is to be really careful when being offered money for photo shoots. It's not the person I am today. I've had to learn the hard way. I hope others don't have to go through what I've endured. He also sent a text message out to his teammates saying he was embarrassed and ashamed. And he said it was a bit hard to put the full story into words, but I was broke and doing some modeling, and I got talked into doing an adult film. Unknown to me, but it turned out they put a bloke on the other side of the wall. I'm terribly embarrassed and ashamed, even though it happened when I was so young. So let's go into it.
So what exactly happened?
So hold on. A website, newscom.au, reported that it is understood that a reference is to a contraption that the young man being filmed and stand on the side of, with a much older man concealed on the other side, on the other, performing sexual acts. Now, this was done. So this is how it goes down. They have these people that come in, they supposedly talk to them about, and the website is called allaustralianboys.com.
Right.
And he said one of the founders said, we're often asked, how do we constantly get people to get these type of guys to do this type of stuff? And he said it's not easy, but the results are make it very worthwhile. And he says what they basically do is they have this partition up and they have someone on the other side of it watching the person that is taking their clothes off and taking the pictures. And then they're induced, like, or persuaded into actually having sex with them at some particular point. And the whole thing is filmed. But again, the website in itself, how it's set up, that's what it's all about. And people seem to know this before they even get onto the photo set, because this is what it's about. And
most of them do, but this guy apparently didn't.
So he said he was young, naive, and broke and needed money. So, okay.
But then, I'm still not clear. So he says he didn't know that there was someone on the other side of the wall. So basically, did he stick his dick in a hole and not realize that the person on the other side of the hole was a cisgender man? No, because if that's the case, then I could see how he could say that he was tricked, because remember that site with the black girls where it was always so, but the black girls, the stunt was it was taggers or tagged, where it would be like the trade would show up at the girl would have the trade come to the hotel, and it would be like, put on this blindfold, and and the
isn't that was that like bait bus or something? They were sucking them off and whatever.
Something else, but this was all black guys. Where they would show up to like the Motel 6, and it would be some big titty, big booty girl, big breasted woman, and she'd be like, "Yeah, I get you a few dollars, whatever, we'll fuck or whatever." And then he would put the blindfold on, and then a dude would come in and start fucking him off, sucking him off. And then they will start fucking, and then the dude would take the blindfold off and be like, "What the fuck? I didn't know this was a dude." And then he'd be like, "You want this $50?" And inevitably they would say yes. And my thing is like, there are some women that are very hairy, but you mean to tell me that when you was thrusting between this person's leg, you ain't feel all that leg hair on the chest and the between their legs or whatever? So if it's that, I would call stunt queen, because I just can't believe that none of those dudes figured it out before they took the blindfold off.
Listen, as I said,
thug bait.
Thank
you, best friend. Come on, thug bait.
The website is called allaustralianboys.com, and it says, which confusingly declares it is not a gay porn site, and that it celebrates the sizzling sexuality and natural unassuming beauty of straight Australian men 18 to 26 by filming them having sex acts with other men.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now,
but what I'm saying, on the thug bait side, they were literally in person. But if you and I, if I'm in the room and they're like, take, pose, this would be better if you took your clothes off. I was gonna pay you $50, but if you take your clothes off, I'll give you $100. Okay, pose.
So that right.
Now start jerking off a little bit. I'll increase it to $150. Okay, jerk off a little bit. Now, if I give you $250, if you just sort of pretend or whatever. I mean, I'm not sure how that all works, because once you start sticking your dick in a hole, then it's like, well,
there was no glory hole situation. That's not how this was. They were literally being watched by the person on the other side of the wall. So when they knew that
person was watching,
when that person came from behind that wall, that's when he had sex with them on camera.
So he knew he was. So there wasn't a thug bait. There was no blindfold or whatever. Oh, well, girl, what the fuck? That's stunt queen. That's
what I keep saying. There was no.
I was trying to give the little cute Australian boy the benefit of the doubt, but like, no, girl, this is a stunt queen. You was fine with having gay sex because you needed a little cash, but now you are semi-famous in the Perth whatever league, and now you're mad, or not mad, but you're embarrassed.
Very stunt queenie for me, but I'm also not trying to discount whatever trauma he may have had.
I'm really trying to. I get that he was young. I respect that he's young and that he was young and naive. That's what I'll respect, is that he was young and naive and didn't like think down the line. Because if he was just, Kurt Capewell, Australian accountant, no one might care. But he's a fucking pro rugby player. That's supposed to be like it's like a football player here who did the same thing. Could you imagine if Colin Kaepernick had done the same thing? By the way, I would watch the shit out of that if Colin Kaepernick had done the same thing. But, so I get the young and naive part, but at some point it's like you have to own that you had sex with another dude and just be like, you did. And Well, right. So I'll agree that the premise is predatory and it runs on power imbalance. He's A Black 8 says, I believe he's telling the truth. I'm not saying he's not telling the truth. I mean, you can tell us truth and still be a stunt queen. So what is the lesson here? Girls, and listen, this goes all the way back to Vanessa Williams. Girls, if the photo shoot says we're doing it clothed, stay clothed. If you take your clothes off, know that the moment you start taking your clothes off, the end game is sex with someone, probably. And Bill Romulin says, "What trauma? He saw the man before the sex." But yeah, so I agree that there was a power imbalance, probably because this man was much older, and depending on the person's conditioning, whatever, he may have been whatever. But I don't know. He feels traumatized now, and maybe he didn't want to do it. But is he any more traumatized than someone who was like bisexual or whatever? So I don't know. Your slurping of your drink seems very pointed.
On to the next story.
Now
listen,
this is trauma.
This is trauma, and I am in no way
This is a trigger warning for
and I for me, I have personal investment in this because it's my home city, and before I even start, we just have to do better. Just as
this is a trigger warning for sexual assault.
So there was a woman on a SEPTA train, and she was sexually assaulted while other riders failed to intervene. A woman was, now I'm reading the article because all these things are in the article, and this is what it reads. And so it says a woman was allegedly sexually assaulted on a transit train in Philadelphia last week, as a number of witnesses failed to stop the incident or call police. The alleged rape occurred on SEPTA, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority's Market Frankfurt line, the L, on Wednesday night, and was a horrendous criminal act, which is what SEPTA said in a statement. The SEPTA spokesperson said that an employee in the vicinity of the incident, as the train went past, called the police to report that something wasn't right. The employee boarded the train and saw the assault in progress and immediately called 911. That prompted an immediate response by SEPTA Transit Police, and the officer boarded the train when it arrived at the 69th Street Transportation Center, and the officer located the suspect and the victim and took the suspect into custody. The police chief said there were very few notifications to police about the incident, even though there were people on the train with phones in their hands who witnessed the alleged rape take place. He says SEPTA Police got one call, and Philadelphia 911 received no calls and hadn't heard back from Delaware County 911 at the time of this printing. Now, asked if the passengers on the train recorded the incident on their phone and posted video on social media, he said, "I can tell you people were holding their phone up in the direction of this woman being attacked." Now, there's a thing where some people may have been concerned about retaliation. Some people may have been concerned about being harmed themselves. And some people may have thought that someone else is going to intervene. All three of those
is bullshit.
Unacceptable. Now,
entirely,
people who videotape the crime could potentially be subject to a crime themselves, though that would be up to the district attorney's office. But the suspect was identified as Fiston Ngoy, who had a preliminary arraignment last Thursday on charges of rape, sexual assault, aggravated indecent assault, and more. Now, apparently, he has a record I've read somewhere before, and I don't want to say that he does or he doesn't, but I swear I remember reading somewhere he has a record from somewhere else. But anyway, he's being held at Delaware County Prison on 10% of $180,000 bail and has a preliminary hearing scheduled for next Monday. CNN has not been able to reach him for any comment. Again, the police are saying that witnesses on board should have called the police. And one of the people from this article said that anybody that was on this train has to look in the mirror and ask why they didn't intervene or why they didn't do something. Collectively, they should have and could have gotten together and done something. I just, Listen, Philadelphia, people, society, you have got to do better. There's no way on God's green earth that I'm going to get on a train and see a whole bunch of commotion. And let me be clear, Philadelphia is my home and I love it to death. And I've learned several things about a crowd, about being in people's business and when fights break out and shit. I get all that. But baby, at the point that I realized that there's something going on this train, even if it was a fight, I need to call somebody because we can't have this on the train. But then on top of that, an assault, like a sexual assault of somebody that could be my mother, my sister, my cousin, or like anybody, like a friend, a family, a loved one, like it could be anybody. And we're just gonna sit here and watch, and not only watch it, but film it.
Right. And I'm just like,
who does that?
What are you filming it for?
Who does that?
You're gonna show this to your boys later? Like, look at this bitch getting raped on the train. I mean, what the fuck?
We have got to do better.
Who raised you? I mean, really. Now, listen, I'm the kind of person I keep my headphones on, so I might have been on the train and I might have been asleep and not aware. But the moment I became aware of it, because if I'd have waken up and been like, "Why is everyone filming?" and then I feel like she probably wasn't like silently sitting there or laying there or whatever was happening. When I heard those screams, I'd have been like, "What the fuck is going on?" That's just how I am. There's no way that I would have not intervened, or even if I felt like my life was in danger because he had a gun to her, I would have been like, 911. So
exactly. And listen, on SEPTA, just like on Metro, there are several emergency buttons that you can push and several.
Oh, you could have everybody using that fucking phone instead of filming. You could be like, so we just left, the Market Street station. There's this woman being sexually assaulted. I think we're like in the middle train, so do what you need to do or something. I mean, there's no way that I would have not tried to do something. Filming. Bill Romulan says filming for World Star Hip Hop. I'm just like that. First of all, I don't.
There's not that much money in the world for me. I just can't.
And even if it was just like a fight or whatever, I don't generally. My first thought isn't like I need to film this.
If the fight's over there, I'm going that way.
I generally don't want to be involved. And then once I heard that woman screaming, I probably would have walked away because I was like, maybe they just fighting or whatever. So I don't need to be involved in none of that. But then once I heard that woman screaming or the commotion or whatever, I'd have been like, well, what the fuck is going on over here?
So listen, I love my city, but baby, we got to do better. And people just in general, we have got to do better. Like this just makes no sense.
Now, in other stunt queen news, Meghan McCain blames hostility from Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar for View exit in news that was shocking to no one. So she's opening up about her life in a new audio memoir, which directly blames Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar for her exit from The View. So blah 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 blah. McCain says that the two co-hosts displayed a toxic, direct, and purposeful hostility towards her, growing meaner and less forgiving as former President Donald Trump's administration went on, as if she had become an avatar for everything they hated about the president. She added that their behavior was compounded by the fact that they'd seen firsthand how Trump attacked McCain and her family, notably going after late Senator John McCain while he was alive and after his death. McCain said Goldberg displayed open disdain for her, which was not good for her job. Once she turns on you, quote, once she turns on you, it can create unfathomable tension at the table. And she pointed to a specific moment she felt embarrassed, including the moment in January when Behar told her she had not missed her at all while she was on maternity leave. McCain said she felt like she'd been slapped and cried during the next commercial break. When the show ended, she cried again and threw up, deciding this shit isn't worth it. I don't give even a single fuck about Meghan McCain, and here's why. Well, so I will say I'll take that back, because my feelings for Meghan McCain and how she presented herself on The View is separate from the fact that it does seem like it does seem like Whoopi, if this is true, because it couldn't be, because she could be just giving the whole Karen thing, but if what she said is true, then Whoopi and Joy did create a toxic workplace environment. And if you believe in those kind of things, you have to believe that people are entitled to a safe working environment, even if you don't like that person. So I do not like Meghan McCain at all, but she is just as entitled as everyone else who was on The View or in any workplace to a place where she feels, if not safe, at least not unsafe. That said, all that shit is for entertainment. And so if she took all that shit personally, because I think that's what they're going to say, is like, girl, this was just part of the show, so you took that shit personally. And also, Meghan McCain said a lot of crazy bullshit on the show. So now she wants to cry because, people don't like her. So ultimately, I don't really care. She's going to be fine. So, fuck. But, please don't Mr. Ms. Mix viewer, take this as your green light to act a fool on your job, because you ain't got Joy Behar or Whoopi Goldberg money. So you need to act right on your job. Louboutin says Whoopi just did her job as a moderator. I mean, it's not unimaginable to me, because that place seems like an awful. I'm just going to see that place seems like an awful place to work. It seems like an awful place to work. Rosie O'Donnell has said it was an awful place to work. Lots of other people have said it was an awful place to work.
So I'm not gonna disagree that Whoopi and Joy probably could be bullies. They are two strong personalities, and they feed off of one another. Like, honestly, they have this symbiotic relationship that's, I don't know if it's just the old woman thing, and as they're getting older, they're becoming crotchety old women. Like, they're the female version of a grumpy old man or whatever, but they feed off each other. But it's comedy to me because, again, I know how they are as far as comedians are concerned. But I agree with you. No one should have a hostile work environment. But I'm just not a fan of Meghan McCain, and so I feel like this whining for me is kind of falling on deaf ears right now.
Right. A Black 8 says, I don't like Meghan and her opinions are bullshit, and I can believe Whoopi and Joy are bullies. All can be true, and I agree. All of those things can be true, and I believe that she also, I don't want to say she brought any of it on herself, but it's one of those things where white people do this all the time, particularly white women. We've talked about this before, where white women will say crazy, ridiculous shit, and you have a perfectly legitimate response, and suddenly you're the angry Negro, the angry Black woman, or the angry Italian for having a perfectly reasonable response to something crazy that this conservative Republican person says. If you're going to say something crazy about, kids should be in cages, and then, Whoopi is like, bitch, what the fuck did you just say? And then you're like, I felt like Whoopi came after me because you said something ridiculous. And that's what the show is. It's The View. You gave your view, and then now I'm giving you my view on the ridiculous shit you just said.
And there we are.
Right.
I don't even want to spend too much time on her. But I brought her up only because it was ridiculous from the beginning. But that's what
it was. But there are two small things to talk about. One is come on now, open up, open the link. There we go. Come on. So, who remembers B-Boy Blues? The book by James Earl Hardy. So there was the original. There was Invisible Life by Elin Harris. That was the bougie Black gay experience. Then there was James Earl Hardy, which
you don't know my life.
It was everybody. You could always tell the homos at Florida A&M University because no one ever said anything, but everybody had a copy of Elin Harris's book in their hand. It was just like this secret code. It was like, that's a homo, probably a homo, or at least thinking about it. So yeah. But then James Earl Hardy and the B-Boy Blues series was, I don't want to say hood because that's very disrespectful. It was the more urban.
It was Banshee in comparison
of the same sort of stories about, Black, gay, and DL life in the 90s. So our good Brista Jussie, who still ain't out the woods yet herself, is the direct. This is his directorial debut on November the 8th, but it's coming up now. It's next week, not the next. It's November the 8th. It's going to be at a film festival. Yeah, it's at the American Black Film Festival. And I think it's going to be streamed online at some point. Yes. So you can watch it for free on abffplay.com. Cool. So I am definitely going to try to get into that. That's something that I wouldn't mind going to the theaters to see.
Yeah. Louboutin, I heard about that. Satan's Sisters.
And then the last story that I have is Billy Porter had some very specific feelings about Harry Styles wearing a dress. He said, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but he says all he has to do is to be white and straight. So what did he says? He says, I changed the game. I personally changed the whole game, and that is not ego, that is just fact. I was the first one doing it, and now everybody is doing it. I created the conversation about non-binary fashion, and yet Vogue still put Harry Styles, a straight white man, in a dress on their cover for the first time. He insisted he wasn't dragging Styles, but stressed that the singer's dedication to changing gender norms through clothing wasn't motivated by lived experience. Quote, he doesn't care. He's just doing it because it's the thing to do. This is politics for me. This is my life. I've had to fight my entire life to get to the place where I could wear a dress to the Oscars and not be gunned down. All he has to do is to be white and straight. So it's spot the lie, but it's also like
I'm talking about the white and straight part.
The white and straight part.
Now whether he changed the game, that's something different.
Yeah, that's the part that I feel a little bit like.
But okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm all the way on board with single-handedly changed the game. I mean, I guess there is a case because before him, I'm struggling, and someone can correct me, please do. I'm struggling to Spesh says, I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels like Billy Porter is doing a little too much sometimes. Yeah, it's that. It was like, yes, girl. I mean, I respect what you did, and you definitely maybe was the highest profile person to do it, but I don't know if you created the lane. I mean, you didn't create the blueprint for gender bending in fact.
So because let's go all the way back to Little Richard, number one.
Right.
Let's even come back forward to Elton John.
Right.
Let's even talk about Freddie Mercury. Huh?
Let's even talk about drag queens.
Yeah. Let's talk about every drag queen. Marsha P. Johnson. I always oh God, I cannot think of her name. Who was right there next to Marsha. I cannot remember her name.
Yes. That person, yes.
That's awful.
Macy. I know who you're talking about.
She's Latina. I cannot think.
Sylvia Rivera.
Thank you.
Rivera.
Thank you.
So yes, you may have been the most current. You might be the most current high-profile person to do so, but you certainly did not set this lane. However, the part about Harry Styles being white and straight, and for Billy Porter and for Sylvia
Rodriguez or Rodriguez? Rodriguez, I believe.
Yes, and for all of those other people that you named,
Boy George, yes.
Boy George, Freddie Mercury. This is all
Sylvester.
about their lived life. This is political. Whereas for you, it's just a fashion statement. Because as far as I know, Harry Styles has not embraced a gender fluid identity as like, oh, I'm a gender fluid person. He's just like, oh, it's cool to wear a dress, which is fine. I mean, that's great. But, you know, so I agree with that point. But with him changing the game, I'm like,
Now, Bill says he can't name any man who did a red carpet in a dress. Okay, I mean, that may be true. But that if that's what your lane is going to be, state that and stay in that lane.
I think he's saying it's more than just wearing it's more than just wearing the dress on the red carpet. It's a conversation about non-binary fashion.
Okay.
So
But
I think
once
it's a
again,
larger conversation than that. And I don't think that Billy Porter is he's definitely a trailblazer, but he is not the trailblazer.
I will agree with that. I'll give him that. Divine, yeah. Okay. I'll give him that.
And I
Miss
mean, that's
Razor.
perfectly fine. And so I just feel like it's a little bit like you one of the greats, you ain't the greatest.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Anyway, child. Roll this beautiful bean footage.
This was a fun conversation.
Yes, it is.
All right. Which one are we doing? Outro. Hey, thank you all for checking that out. I want to say thank you to all of the new faces because I don't feel like I've seen a Black H on before, and if I have, I'm so sorry, you know. But thank you for joining in. Thank you, and thank you for Romulan for coming. We hope you all come back, and I want you to do this now. Everyone within the sound of my voice, I want you to find someone and say, neighbor. Next week, I need you to come. Oh, I figured that's who it was. But I didn't want to put your business out there if that wasn't you, a Black H. I kind of figured that's who that was, but I was like, okay. I want you to grab someone and bring them to the next show so that we can grow our audience.
But make sure that you, just like the people that you're bringing in, that they click to subscribe and then also
the show.
Notification.
They like the show, which brings it up in more people's algorithm, and they subscribe to the show so that they will get notifications. So like the people that I subscribe to on my YouTube channel, because I have YouTube on my phone, when someone, not just that I subscribe to, but I also click that bell icon, which gives me the notification. So when that person goes live or posts new content, you can see what that content is. We would love to do more things and do the show more than once a week. And, you know, we will start doing more than that now that we are slowly coming out of this, you know, pepperoni pizza. And now that we can mix and match our boosters, I'm sticking with Moderna because Moderna ain't never did me wrong.
Baby, you ain't never lied because they tried to tell me today. She was like, well, you know, you can get the Pfizer. She said, but the Moderna might not be available for it. I was like, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Because I will say it one more time. We went to Florida. We dipped it low. We spread it wide, and of the 15 of us that went, the 5 of us that got the COVIDs all had the Pfizer.
So my nurse today told me something very interesting about the Moderna shots. She said the Moderna shots, you are given 100 milligrams of the shot, or 100 milligrams of the shot for each shot. But then the Pfizer, they only gave you 30 grams for each shot. And then they said after 6 months, their efficacy went down. So I said, well, I can kind of see that. But then again, it also may not necessarily be that bad, or may not be as bad as I'm thinking it is, especially if the Pfizer was stronger than the Moderna one from the beginning. So that could possibly balance out. But baby, I'm just like you were just saying, I'm staying with my Moderna. Like, I'm good.
She ain't never let me down. She ain't let me down so far. So
like,
I'm sticking with her. I'm riding until the wheels fall off. So
yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Exactly. Black H. Moderna has been working for me. My arm is ready for that boost. I'm like,
yeah. Oh, El Teddy, you got your Moderna booster already. Okay, all right.
Well, some places apparently was given the booster, but what I saw, like today was the first time that I officially saw that they approved the Moderna booster officially today. So
okay, so listen. I
was like, girl, just give me a little bit of everything. You give me a little bit of that Johnson Johnson and too, just for some as some little extra razzle dazzle.
But I had this conversation with someone who legitimately was trying to explain what he was doing. He literally is going to get. He got 2 of the 3 shots, and he's also going back to get the booster shots when he's available. And I was like, but why? He's like, well, each of them were designed with a different strain in mind, and so it doesn't hurt that I get all the shots and I'm covering all the strains. And I was like, but why? Like, that doesn't. I just
right.
I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, but I'm definitely getting that Moderna because now that it's been approved, I'm just waiting for that final announcement because the committee gave a preliminary approval today. It gets the final approval, then that becomes sort of the thing. And then now that
we gotta wait till it rolls out.
And then the CD, well, they got the shots. It's not a different formulation.
Yeah, it's just 50% of
it.
Yeah, it's 50% of it or whatever they said.
Right. And so all I need to do as soon as that's happened, I'm like, all right, so when can I get this together? So let's do this. And then I'm fine. Like, listen, give me that shot every 6 months just to be good. I'm fine
to get it together.
Right. Listen, I'm not like some of these people. All them shots that the other people don't want to take. Listen, there are plenty of us that are lined up that are ready to get back to our lives and, ain't mad about it at all. So give me that fucking Johnson & Johnson. But yes, we are trying to grow our audience. We did a really good job. We were under 50 at the beginning of the year, 50 subscribers, and now we're up to 270 some.
Thank you, Jesus.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. He is my best friend. Somebody need to catch on fire. Catch on fire. Catch on fire. Okay, there we go. But our next goal is 1,000 subscribers. We know that's not going to happen overnight, but if each one of you that are subscribed now gets a friend to join next week and come and see us and have them subscribe, and then they do that, and then they do that, and then they do that,
they do that, and then they do that. No one got that reference. I don't think anybody got that reference.
And so on,
and so on, and so on, and so on, and so
on. So again, thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate this. Hey, and this conversation is so much more fun because you join in the chat. That's what really makes the conversation good. And we have differences of opinion. Listen, now that I know who A Black H is for sure, as soon as I started talking about Obama, he was like, girl, fuck Obama. And I was like, oh, as soon as you said that, I was like, I'm pretty sure who that is. But that's what makes this conversation great, is that we aren't all just like, yep, we have differences of opinion on these things. And that's what makes it great. So I will end by saying thank you all for coming out. Anything you got to add to that, Epic?
God bless and good night.
All right. Bye.